Hello, so today I'm going to be talking about rape and rape culture and how it affects women. So I'm going to jump right into it with the rough definition of rape as described in the book Women's Voices, Feminist Divisions by Susan Shaw and Janet Lee. So in the book, they broadly define rape as sex without consent and describe it as a crime of aggression, which focuses on dominating or hurting another person. In the book, they also specifically mention how a person who is asleep or passed out or incapacitated in any way cannot give consent for any sexual action. So, in the book, it also talks about that fact that 95% of reported sexual assaults are against females. So we know that this is obviously a huge problem that affects women, and they also talk about how 1 in 3 to 1 in 4 women experience sexual assault in their lifetime. There's different types of sexual assault. Altruistic is one of them, compliant is another, where in altruistic the victim feels guilty or sorry for the person who is committing this crime against them and agrees to engage in sexual activity with them. And compliant is where the woman is in a situation where it's less dangerous for her to engage in sexual activity than to deny sexual activity. So, in the book, they state that half of all females raped are under the age of 18. So we know that this is a huge issue, especially for our young women. And the U.S. Bureau of Statistics from 2005 states that 75% of sexual assaults are committed by someone that the victim actually knows. So we know that the biggest form of rape is date rape, and that it's also the most unreported, which correlates with the fact that it's the most common form. So the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, their website has a really great graphic about the fact that 60% of rapes over the last 5 years have gone unreported and how these rapists are dealt with. So out of 100 rapists, their graph shows that 40 of these rapes are reported to the police. 10 of these rapists are arrested, 8 are prosecuted, 4 are given felony convictions, but only 3 ever serve prison time, which is crazy when you think that 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted every year, but only 3 out of 100 of those rapists are serving prison time. So we know that this is a huge issue for women, and we're asking ourselves, why is this such a big issue? And the problem is rape culture. So rape culture is described best in the magazine Everyday Feminism. It's an online magazine, you can look it up, and it's in the article 25 Everyday Examples of Rape Culture by Shannon Ridgway. This is a great article, I urge you to go read it. And basically in the article she talks about rape culture is the way that we as a culture collectively think about rape, and she's quoted as saying, "When we talk about rape culture, we're discussing something more implicit than that. We're talking about cultural practices that, yes, we commonly engage in together as a society that excuse or otherwise tolerate sexual violence." So this means that sexual violence is trivialized, it's ignored, it's normalized, and it's joked about in our culture. And this could explain why rape is the only violent crime wherein the victim is not automatically assumed to be innocent, which is crazy when you consider, victim blaming, as you wouldn't tell someone who had just been robbed that they were asking for it based on, what they were wearing or what they were doing, as, you would a rape victim, or how rape victims commonly are. Excuse me, I just had a cold that I'm recovering from. My voice is a little scratchy. So this, victim blaming, it encourages women to feel guilty and discourages them from reporting the crime. So this is a huge problem politically, as Fox 2 Now reported on the fairly public scandal involving U.S. Representative Todd Akin and his comments about legitimate rape, and how when a woman is a victim to legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try and shut that whole thing down, which basically means that if a woman is raped, a female body has a way to shut their reproductive system down so a pregnancy doesn't incur from a rape, and abortion isn't necessary for rape victims. Another reporting about rape from politician is from the Huffington Post Politics, where Richard Murdoch, who's a GOP Senate candidate from Indiana, spoke out against rape victims receiving abortions with this statement: I think that even when life begins in the horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen. I don't even need to say the huge implications that this statement incurs, and he has received huge outlash and has since rescinded and amended his statements. Another article by Karen Smith on CNN Justice reports that a Montana judge sentenced a former high school teacher only 31 days in jail for pleading guilty to a rape of a 14-year-old girl. And it's important to note the minimum in the state is 2 years, but the judge's reasoning for only sentencing him 31 days was that the girl's age seemed older than her chronological age. And so the girl later took her own life, and as we know, this is a huge issue with rape victims and just the mental and emotional struggles that they have after the crime. So another factor of rape culture out of the political realm and into the more everyday culture is the common use of the word rape to make it normalized in other settings and lessen the meaning. And this can commonly be heard in rape jokes and in people using the word rape to describe sports or competition, as in saying that like one team raped another or a test raped me academically. And this really lessens the meaning of the word rape. Social media is another huge aspect wherein rape culture is perpetuated. So social media support for celebrities or athletes who are accused of rape, when the victim is lashed out upon and the victim is vilified, that really perpetuates rape culture and victim blaming, and the attention is given to the victim and what they did wrong rather than the criminal, and support is given to the criminal and the victim is called a liar. And this is a huge part of why possibly people who are raped through date rape, it goes unreported because these women feel discouraged, like they're going to be vilified as liars, just like the women who report in the media and turn into these huge scandals. So victim blaming I've talked about, and it's a huge problem, and it stems from a lot of myths that are talked about in the Women's Voices Feminist Visions book. Some of these myths I'll just read them for you quick now. A myth that women are asking for it and that a man cannot control his urges once he has been enticed. The myth that the woman does not have the right to say no, and that once contact has been initiated, she must follow through with it, and the myth that rape is infrequent in victims who are reported are lying. A lot of this goes back to what we learned about in class, dealing with Eve and the history of women being, thought of over the course of history as like drawing men in, being the evil temptresses, and men not being able to say no to their, urges and being drawn in by the women who are evil. I think this goes back to a lot of what we learned in class and where this, culture of like victim blaming and rape culture, the myths have come from, and I think that's really interesting. I never thought about it like that before. So the best way to combat rape culture is by making people aware of its existence and really educating our youth. There's a lot of work to be done here, obviously, a lot of laws that need to be reformed, minimum punishments that need to be raised, practices that need to be instilled to, protect victims of rape during the multiple processes of like trials and reporting, so that they're not persecuted along with their attackers, because that's not fair. Victim blaming in that sense really could have an easy fix when it comes to laws and legal practices. Education, like I said, properly educating children and young people to know that violence is not okay and sexuality is healthy, but you are in control of your sexuality at any time. You can say no, man or woman. That really needs to be taught to our children, because they're the next generation and they're where that culture is going to stop. Teaching them not to use the word rape carelessly and to really respect the meaning of the word is huge. Another thing that's being done are slut walks. Those are being done across the nation to raise awareness against victim blaming and open up a dialogue about rape culture and women's experiences, victims' experiences, and etc. And I think that's a huge thing that's being done just to spread awareness. Another thing to spread awareness that's being done is through social media, and it's through the hashtags everyday sexism and yes all women. And as we learned in class, women sharing their experiences, coming together, and then doing something about those shared experiences has been what's changed our culture throughout history. And I think this is a huge movement just like that to do that, and it's really connecting the world and women globally. So I think that's a huge coup for ending the perpetuation of rape culture, and I'm excited to see where those social media movements take us. So I hope you learned something, and goodbye.